This video is for you if you feel anxious or self-conscious in social settings. I think this is especially important as the pandemic and social distancing has increased anxiety for many people. Before you blame or shame yourself for this, please know that this is a time where none of us had instructions for and knew how to deal with it. But know that you are not alone and that there's nothing wrong with you. Also know that social anxiety is the most treatable. So a little bit of anxiety, nervousness is normal, and all of us feel it in different situations, such as the anxious feelings someone gets before giving a speech. Even an experienced speaker can feel that nervousness. It becomes prevalent when it starts affecting the way you live and it prevents you from day-to-day activities. There are reasons behind experiencing social anxieties, and it's important to avoid blaming yourself or thinking that there's something wrong with you. And it's also really important to seek help for it. By the way, don't forget to hit subscribe, like, and share this video so other people can heal and grow within our community. Before we get into the therapeutic tools of this video, I want to remind you that there are labels you have given yourself throughout life, right? Such as shyness, anxious, fearful, and those labels are not really who you are. Whether that label is coming from within or an individual outside of you, you're not those labels. Because I am a firm believer, I cannot speak today if you haven't noticed, but I'm going to continue to go because it's normal. I am a firm believer that the way you describe yourself is how you end up acting and behaving. So know that if you think you're confident, and you want to show up as confident, you're going to start feeling that way. So what's anxiety? It's feelings of worry, nervousness, and unease. It's symptoms that are, you feel uncertain about an outcome of a situation, and it causes a lot of shame and can get in the way of the normal day-to-day functioning. And you may believe that you're being judged or you're embarrassed and humiliated really easily. And when we talk about social anxiety, that worry and nervousness is primarily focused on social events and encounters throughout your day. And in order for you to successfully make changes in your life, let's start by gaining a better understanding what anxiety is. Anxiety is made up of 3 parts. It's the physiological side, the cognitive, and the behavioral part. The physiological part is the first and the most important that I focus on in the beginning of my relationship with my clients, because this is where anxiety starts to present itself that we're aware of for most of us. The physiological changes in your body is the feeling that you get in the pit of your stomach, your heart starts racing, you're sweating, you have shortness of breath, and oftentimes you've gotten used to these symptoms that you sometimes tend to ignore them. But when we start to tap into our bodies and recognize these symptoms, we can calm ourselves and in turn start calming our mind. The cognitive means your thoughts, your thinking. Many of my clients have reported thoughts like, they'll just think I'm so boring. I won't have anything to say. They might think that I'm a weirdo and not talk to me anymore. What if I fall and make a fool out of myself? These are all fear-based thoughts you've created in your own mind. Okay, so the last part, the behavioral component, is when someone is noticing something in your behaviors. So you're avoiding eye contact, putting your head down when you walk, walking by quickly. It could also be things that you're not doing, such as not going to lunch or happy hour with your team at work. So think of this example. Imagine your boss sends you an email and says that he or she wants to talk with you. You feel your heart racing, you feel it in your stomach is turning and just feels that emptiness. Your hands are sweating. You're thinking, what do they need to talk to me about? Can this meeting happen already? Oh my God, I don't want this meeting to happen at all. Am I gonna get fired? All of these thoughts run through your mind and so rapidly. And after the meeting, you realize that there was actually nothing wrong that you've done or with you, and you were actually praised for your work. So, step one, we really want to focus on calming our physical body. Okay, so you've heard about breathing techniques, and one of the first things that happens when someone feels anxious is that they essentially hold their breath and have very short and shallow breaths. So the first thing you can do is a quick and easy technique of deep breathing, and this can be done anywhere at any time. So what I use is a 4-8-8 technique because it's easy to remember, but feel free to do the 4-6-7 if it's hard for you to breathe with the 4-8-8 technique. So taking a deep breath for a count of 4, hold for a count of 8, and release for a count of 8. Do this about 3 times. I actually encourage my clients to do it about 4, but if doing it 3 times is easier, that's okay too. So we want to send oxygen to your brain to reduce the fight or flight symptom and bring you to a calm state where you can think more logically and not through fear. I usually do a combination of cognitive behavioral therapies, which really focuses on thoughts, and other exposure treatments as well. The exposure treatment is what it sounds like. The person is faced with object or the situation of their anxiety. So if a client is fearing an upcoming situation, event, or a conversation, we role play in the session and talk through all their fears and anxieties that they think could happen. So this type of treatment is so helpful because it allows the client to walk through their anxieties, which they don't normally talk about, and also helps them recognize the dramatic thoughts that they have been experiencing actually rarely happens. They also feel more confident because now they have practiced a new way of being and living without that anxiety in that moment. Another very important thing you'll learn through this method is that anxiety is short if you face it, despite what it may feel like. I know it doesn't feel short sometimes. So exposure treatment must be done with a person you trust, such as a therapist or a well-versed coach. I also mentioned that I use cognitive restructuring, which basically means questioning your current thinking. For example, I'm going to fall on my face and embarrass myself in front of everyone at the party. Questioning, how likely is it for you to fall at a party? And what if you do fall? You're probably afraid of people laughing at you. And they might, but what if you laugh too? Right? Because all of us fall, and as long as we're not hurt, it's okay to laugh. So it's really questioning certain beliefs to start dismantling the unrealistic ones. Because questioning your thoughts to see if they are really true, do they make sense, are they actually helpful in life, is so important and a really good way to face your anxiety. So number 3 has really 2 parts for me, because I tell my clients that they need to have an acceptance of what they're going to work on. So like I said, the first thing is acceptance, because if we want to change a behavior, we must be able to accept ourselves and what has been happening in our lives in order to make that change. And this is coming from a place of love and a place of holding space for yourself to know that it's okay, you've experienced this, and it's time for you to change it if that's where you are. So gaining understanding of your anxiety through journaling is another important part. So ask yourself these questions. What are those anxious and fearful thoughts? What are the triggers to those thoughts? When do you feel anxious the most? Is it around certain people or certain times, or just all the time? This is a tool that I always encourage my clients to use, and you can answer these questions by journaling about them. So journaling is the most important part, and it's so beneficial to get you out of your mind and on this piece of paper without judging yourself. Okay, so I will do a separate video about journaling because it's truly life-changing and has proven to be for so many of my clients. But before I end this video, if you're dealing with anxiety, please contact someone to help you through it. If you're interested in working with me, use the link below to send me an email and schedule a discovery call. As always, don't forget to be kind to yourself and those around you.